Most women believe that the dryness, the discomfort, the feeling of fragility after menopause is something they simply have to endure, a quiet surrender to the passing years. Maybe you've told yourself that intimacy, pleasure, even basic comfort down there are just memories now, relics of a younger body that no longer exists. But what if I told you that's not the whole truth? What if the very thing you've been taught to avoid, to feel embarrassed about, or dismiss as no longer appropriate, could actually restore your body's resilience, comfort, and vitality? What if one of the most powerful tools for protecting your vaginal health, preventing infection, and even reversing tissue thinning, isn't found in a prescription bottle or a doctor's office? What if it's something natural, private, and completely within your control, something your body has been quietly asking for all along? Welcome to the Female Health Podcast, where we talk about what most women only whisper about. I'm Dr. Lia Parker, a gynecologist and intimate health psychologist with over 30 years of experience helping women navigate the physical and emotional seasons of their lives. And today we're going to talk about something that has been surrounded by shame and silence for far too long, yet holds remarkable power to protect your vaginal health after menopause. You see, in my 3 decades of practice, I've sat with thousands of women who came to me with the same quiet complaints: dryness that makes walking uncomfortable, irritation that never quite goes away, recurring infections, even pain that has made them avoid intimacy altogether. They tell me they've tried lubricants, moisturizers, even hormone therapy, and while some of these help, many still feel like their bodies have changed in ways they can't reverse. But here's what most women don't know. Clinical research from places like the Mayo Clinic has revealed something extraordinary. Regular self-stimulation after menopause doesn't just give temporary relief, it actually creates real lasting changes in your vaginal tissues. We're talking about better blood flow, restored moisture, improved flexibility, and even tissue healing that researchers once thought was impossible. Today I'm going to share with you 3 scientific truths about what daily self-pleasure does to your vaginal health after menopause. These aren't myths or wishful thinking, they're real facts that have helped countless women reclaim comfort, confidence, and connection with their bodies. We'll start by understanding what menopause actually does to your intimate tissues. Then we'll explore the remarkable ways that self-stimulation protects you. And finally, I'll show you exactly how to practice this safely as part of your health routine. Stay with me until the end, because the final truth I'll share about tissue reversal is the one that shocks even medical professionals. You might just discover it changes everything you thought you knew about aging. The first truth we need to face is what's actually happening inside your body after menopause. Because until you understand what's really going on, you can't fully appreciate why something as simple as self-stimulation could make such a big difference. When menopause arrives, your hormone levels don't just decline, they drop dramatically. And these hormones aren't just about reproduction. They maintain the thickness, flexibility, and moisture of your vaginal walls. Without them, those tissues begin to change in ways that affect far more than intimacy. The lining becomes thinner, more fragile. The natural cushioning that once protected you starts to disappear. This leaves tissues open to irritation and tiny tears. This is why so many women tell me that even sitting for long periods feels uncomfortable, or that certain movements create a stinging feeling they never had before. Then there's the dryness, not just during intimacy, but all the time. That rawness, that feeling like something is always slightly inflamed. It's not in your head. Your body's natural moisture system has slowed down dramatically. The glands that make moisture depend on hormones to work. Without enough hormones, they make less and less, leaving you always uncomfortable. But what most women don't realize is how this affects blood flow. Circulation to your pelvic region goes down. This means less oxygen and fewer nutrients reaching those delicate tissues. This creates a vicious cycle. Less blood flow leads to more fragility, which leads to more disconnection and discomfort. And let's talk about something that affects nearly half of women after menopause, but rarely gets mentioned openly. The vaginal walls become so thin and inflamed that they're prone to irritation and infection. It's why urinary tract infections become more common, why you might notice unusual discharge, and why simple activities that once caused no problems suddenly feel unbearable. The pelvic floor muscles also begin to lose their strength. These are the muscles that support your bladder, uterus, and vagina. When they weaken, you start having those embarrassing leaks when you cough, laugh, or exercise. Many women stop doing activities they once loved because of this loss of control, feeling betrayed by their own bodies. I want you to understand something important. These changes are not personal failures. They're predictable responses to hormonal shifts. But, and this is where hope comes in, they are not permanent sentences. Your tissues remain responsive, adaptive, capable of healing when given the right signals. If this description of changes after menopause resonates with you, if you've felt that dryness, fragility, or sense of disconnection, type 1 in the comments. If this is new information, or if you're curious to learn more, type 0. Your voice helps me create content that truly serves you, because now that we understand what menopause does to your vaginal tissues, we can explore something remarkable. It doesn't need a prescription, it has no side effects, and it works with your natural body. The key is stimulation, and the science behind why it works is nothing short of remarkable. When you feel arousal and reach orgasm, your body starts a chain of responses that directly fight the effects of menopause. This isn't guessing or wishful thinking, it's real science that researchers have studied for decades. Let me walk you through exactly what happens. The first and most immediate effect is better blood flow. During arousal, blood vessels in your pelvic area open up wide. They flood your vaginal tissues with oxygen-rich blood. This isn't just a temporary feeling of warmth, it's actual delivery of nutrients, immune cells, and growth factors that your tissues need to stay strong. A 2019 study found that women who stayed sexually active showed much better blood vessel response in their pelvic tissues compared to those who weren't active. In other words, blood flow itself becomes therapy. Then there's moisture. Even though declining hormones reduce your natural wetness, stimulation sends a direct signal to your glands. Arousal turns them on, making them release natural lubricants that protect against friction and tiny tears. Women who do regular self-stimulation consistently report better comfort day to day, not just during intimate moments, but while walking, sitting, and exercising. Their bodies remember how to make moisture because they're being reminded regularly. But it gets even more interesting. During arousal, your vaginal walls stretch gently. This action keeps flexibility in a way that no cream or medication can copy. Without regular use, those tissues lose their stretch and become stiff, but with consistent gentle stretching, the tissue stays flexible. Studies looking at tissue under microscopes have shown thicker, stronger vaginal walls in sexually active women after menopause. The message is clear: use it or lose it isn't just a saying, it's biological truth. Now let's talk about your pelvic floor. During orgasm, these muscles squeeze in rhythmic waves, basically doing their own internal workout. Each squeeze builds strength, coordination, and stamina. This creates the exact same effect as Kegel exercises. Research showed that women with frequent orgasms reported far fewer urinary leaks. Your body is doing pelvic floor therapy naturally, if you allow it to. And then there's brain chemistry. When you reach orgasm, your brain releases helpful compounds, oxytocin, which calms your nervous system and reduces stress, natural pain relievers, which ease discomfort and lift mood, and dopamine, which sharpens focus and brings back motivation. These aren't just nice feelings, they're healing chemicals that reduce swelling, improve sleep quality, and strengthen your immune response. Perhaps most remarkably, regular stimulation supports your vaginal health balance. Good blood flow and natural moisture create a space where helpful bacteria thrive and harmful ones struggle to survive. This is why clinical studies found that women who keep regular sexual activity have fewer recurring urinary tract infections. The gentle flushing effect of arousal and the balanced nature of natural moisture work together as a defense system. If this explanation makes sense to you, if you're beginning to see how natural processes can protect vaginal health, type 1 in the comments. If you're still thinking about it or have questions, type 0. I want to know where you are in this journey. Because we're about to explore something even more extraordinary, something that challenges everything the medical world once believed about aging and tissue decline. The third truth about reversal is the one that changes everything. For decades, medical textbooks taught a simple, sad message. Once menopause thins your vaginal tissues, the damage is done. The thinning is permanent. Decline is certain. Women were told to manage symptoms as best they could, but to accept that their bodies would never recover the strength they once had. I was taught this in medical school. I repeated it to patients for years. And then the research changed everything. In 2020, the Mayo Clinic published a study that shocked doctors everywhere. They followed women after menopause who did regular sexual activity or self-stimulation over a 12-month period. At the end of the study, researchers did tissue tests and detailed scans. What they found went against what we all believed. The vaginal lining, the tissue of the vaginal walls, had gotten measurably thicker. The protein that gives structure had increased. New blood vessels had formed. The tissues showed fewer signs of swelling, and tiny tears healed faster than in women who stayed inactive. The conclusion was clear. Vaginal thinning is not a permanent sentence. It's an active condition that responds to consistent stimulation. Let that sink in for a moment. The body you thought had permanently changed can actually heal. The tissues you believed were lost forever can rebuild themselves, not completely, not overnight, but measurably, meaningfully, in ways that bring back comfort and function. The biological reasons explain why this works. When you create arousal regularly, you increase pelvic blood flow. This delivers the oxygen and nutrients your tissues need for repair. The gentle stretching encourages the cells that make structural proteins to create new fibers. This brings back flexibility and strength to tissues that had become thin and brittle. Better blood flow also triggers the growth of new tiny blood vessels. These small vessels create a network that keeps tissue alive and healthy long after arousal ends. It's like rebuilding the roads of a city. Once those supply lines are there, everything works better. I want to tell you about a woman I worked with, a 64-year-old widow named Patricia. She had avoided any form of intimacy for nearly 8 years after her husband passed. By the time she came to my office, she had severe vaginal thinning, painful dryness, frequent infections, and tissues so fragile that even a medical exam was difficult. We talked about hormone therapy, but Patricia had a family history of breast cancer and didn't want to risk it, so we discussed self-stimulation as a medical treatment. She was hesitant at first, embarrassed, uncertain, but she decided to try, thinking of it as a medical practice rather than something to feel guilty about. Over 6 months, Patricia added gentle self-stimulation several times a week. She used water-based lubricant and took her time. The changes were slow but clear. The constant irritation got better. Her tissues became less fragile. When she came back for a checkup, even I was surprised by the visible improvement. "I didn't think my body could do this," she told me, her voice breaking. "I thought I was just stuck with how things were." She wasn't stuck, and neither are you. Now I want to be clear. This isn't a miracle cure that works the same for every woman. Results vary based on overall health, lifestyle choices, and how consistent you are. The Mayo Clinic study had a modest number of people in it, and we need bigger studies to confirm how common and lasting these benefits are. But the evidence we do have is strong. It gives us permission to change the conversation from giving up to seeing possibility. Instead of telling women that their bodies will only decline, we can explain that tissues stay adaptive, responsive, capable of renewal when given consistent signals. This matters deeply, not just physically but emotionally. So many women feel despair when they're told their intimate health will only get worse. The idea of healing brings hope back. It changes the story from "my body is broken" to "my body is still listening." And here's what that means in real life. You don't have to accept dryness, fragility, and discomfort as your permanent reality. You don't have to give in to pain or avoid intimacy out of fear. Your tissues can regain thickness, flexibility, and comfort through a practice that costs nothing, needs no prescription, and has no side effects. This is the quiet revolution that no one talks about. It's not about turning back time or getting youth back. It's about stepping into a deeper understanding of your body's remarkable ability to adapt and heal at any age. If this truth about tissue reversal surprises you, if it gives you hope or makes you think differently about what's possible, type 1 in the comments. If you're doubtful or want more information, type 0. I want to hear your honest reactions, because understanding that your body can heal naturally leads to the most practical question of all. How do you actually do this safely and effectively in your daily life? That's what we'll explore next, the real doable steps that turn science into self-care. Now that you understand the power of self-stimulation, let's talk about something equally important: how to practice it safely, comfortably, and consistently. Because knowledge without action changes nothing, and many women hesitate not because they don't see the value, but because they don't know where to start. The first thing I tell my patients is this: there is no single correct way to do this. Your body is unique. Your comfort level is personal, and your approach should reflect both. What matters most is being consistent, being gentle, and listening to your body. Research suggests that stimulation several times per week is enough to keep blood vessels healthy and glands active, though some women find daily practice gives them the most comfort. The key is creating a rhythm you can keep. Even brief sessions, just 10 to 15 minutes, can send the signals your tissues need. You're not aiming for performance or achievement. You're simply reminding your body that it's still connected, still responsive, still alive. Lubrication is essential. After menopause, your natural wetness is reduced, so outside support is necessary. Choose a high-quality water-based or silicone-based lubricant without harsh chemicals or fragrances. These products reduce friction and let your tissues stretch gently without damage. Think of lubrication not as a weakness, but as kindness, the same way you'd use moisturizer on dry skin. Keep it within easy reach and use plenty. This single step prevents the tiny tears and irritation that can make practice uncomfortable and stop you from continuing. Think about helpful tools. Vibrators and personal massagers aren't signs of giving up, they're wellness tools. They increase blood flow efficiently, and for women dealing with joint pain or hand stiffness, a wand-style device can give stimulation without strain. If you choose to use one, pick a body-safe option made from medical-grade silicone and start with the gentlest settings. The goal is blood flow and comfort, not intensity. Cleanliness protects your progress. Always wash your hands well before and after. If using devices, clean them with mild, unscented soap, rinse completely, and let them dry fully before storing. Don't share any devices. These simple practices prevent infection and keep the experience safe. Listen to your body's signals. Pain is never required for progress. If something feels uncomfortable, stop and adjust. Some women prefer outside stimulation only, especially when beginning. Others slowly add internal touch as their comfort improves. There's no hierarchy here, no better approach. The right method is the one that feels gentle, sustainable, and respectful of your body's current state. Create a caring space. Many women find that setting aside real time, rather than rushing through practice, makes all the difference. A warm bath beforehand can relax tissues and increase blood flow. Soft lighting, a comfortable temperature, even calming music can tell your nervous system that this is a safe, nurturing space. When you approach self-stimulation as an act of self-care, rather than a chore or something to hide, your body responds with more ease. One of my patients, a 69-year-old yoga instructor, told me she struggled at first because she kept thinking of it as something shameful she had to get through quickly. When she thought of it differently, as a meditation, a quiet conversation with her body, everything shifted. I stopped rushing, she said. I started breathing, and my body opened up in ways I didn't think were possible anymore. Adjust for your needs. If you have joint pain, pelvic pain, or other physical limits, change your approach. Use pillows for support. Try different positions. Take breaks when needed. If you're recovering from surgery or dealing with active infections, talk with your doctor before beginning. This practice should support your healing, not make it harder. Make it part of your bigger health routine. Self-stimulation works best when it's part of a complete approach. Stay hydrated. Enough water keeps tissues supple. Eat foods rich in healthy fats, fiber, and plant-based nutrients to support blood flow and balance. Keep doing regular physical activity to help pelvic blood flow. Manage stress through breathing exercises, gentle movement, or quiet time. And make sleep a priority, because that's when your body does its deepest repair work. Think of self-stimulation as one thread in a larger picture of self-care. When combined with good nutrition, consistent movement, enough rest, and stress management, the benefits multiply. Your tissues respond faster, your comfort increases sooner, and your overall vitality deepens. We've covered a lot today, from what really happens to vaginal tissues after menopause, to the remarkable ways they can heal, from research that challenges old beliefs to practical steps you can take starting today. But before we close, I want to bring this full circle, because the science means nothing if it doesn't change how you see yourself. For too long, women have been taught that menopause marks the end of their intimate vitality. That dryness, discomfort, and disconnection are simply the price of aging. That their bodies are in permanent decline, and the best they can hope for is to manage symptoms and accept loss. But what we've discovered today is that none of that is true. Your tissues stay adaptive, your body still responds to care. And one of the most powerful tools for protecting your vaginal health, strengthening your pelvic floor, improving blood flow, and even reversing thinning is something natural, private, and completely within your control. Self-stimulation after menopause isn't indulgence, it's not shameful or wrong, it's evidence-based self-care that shows your body's ability to renew at every stage of life. It's a practice that increases blood flow, brings back moisture, keeps flexibility, strengthens muscles, releases healing chemicals, and supports immune defense. It's biology working in your favor if you give it permission to do so. I want you to hear this clearly. You are not too old for pleasure. You are not too old for comfort. You are not too old to feel connected to your own body. The shame you carry is not yours. It was handed to you by a culture that misunderstood women's health and silenced conversations that needed to happen. But you can set that shame down. You can choose differently. Patricia, the widow I mentioned earlier, told me something I'll never forget. 6 months after she began her practice, she said, "I spent 8 years believing my body was finished. Now I realize it was just waiting for me to listen." That's the shift I want for every woman watching this. Not a return to youth, but a reclamation of dignity, agency, and joy. This isn't about perfection. It's not about reaching some ideal or meeting outside expectations. It's about honoring your body's needs, respecting its changes, and giving it the consistent care it deserves. When you do that, when you approach self-stimulation as a therapeutic practice rather than something to hide, you step into a new kind of power, a power that's quiet, private, and deeply yours. If this conversation has shifted something for you, if you feel more hopeful, more empowered, or simply more curious about what's possible, type 1 in the comments. And if you're willing to share your own experience, your questions, or your hesitations, please do. Your voice might be exactly what another woman needs to hear to take her first step. I want to thank you for being here, for listening with an open mind, and for having the courage to consider a conversation that so many people still avoid. Your willingness to learn is the beginning of change.